Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of the Guides Association of New York City, Dr. Emma Guest-Gonzalez.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. It's my honor to welcome you all to the 6th Annual Apple Awards. If there's one emotion above all others that tour guides feel about our city, it is pride. We are proud of our skyline, our history, our museums, our theaters, our sports teams, and each other. And I take great pride in leading an organization that represents nearly 400 guides with a range of expertise in all 5 boroughs. Guides who take great pleasure and great pride in sharing the city with its honored guests, shedding lights on aspects that might not always be readily apparent. As the Association of Professional Guides in New York City, GANYC and its members are an indispensable resource for both visitors to our city and to locals. We are often the first and most vital point of contact for visitors, and we steer them through the streets of New York as they explore everything our great city has to offer. I am also very proud of the work GANYC does to support our guides with continuing education, community outreach, and convivial events. Now, what is it that makes New York so great? Well, it's really the New Yorkers, and that is our greatest source of pride. Last year, we celebrated half a century of a moment when the word pride took on a different meaning, and a small army of New Yorkers changed the world. It is no coincidence that 5 of tonight's nominees, as well as our hosts, our guiding spirit, and our Lifetime Achievement honoree are all part of the community that took our understanding of pride to new heights and gave generations long after ours something to celebrate. So thank you all. This is New York Pride. And now, it is my privilege to introduce our hosts for the evening. They are legendary podcasters on the history of our city, tour operators I have the pleasure of working for, and wonderful human beings at any celebration. The Myers and Young families know them as Tom and Greg, but you all know them as the Bowery Boys.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Hi.
Nice crowd. Thank you, honored guests, and welcome to the 6th annual Apple Awards ceremony for the Guides Association of New York. My name is Greg Young.
And I'm Tom Myers, and we are the hosts of the Bowery Boys New York City History Podcast. Thank you. We would like to thank the Guides Association of New York City for inviting us back here to host, again, for our 2nd Apple Awards. We are so honored to be back here tonight. Thank you.
I mean, how could we not love this award show? I mean, what other pageant in the city bestows awards like Outstanding Achievement for New York Museum Exhibition? Huh? The Golden Globes doesn't do that. No?
No, I would say that it's pretty nerdy, folks. And it's right up our alley.
Yes.
We love it. We love it. Or there's Outstanding Achievement in Food, parentheses, New York.
And obviously our favorite, Outstanding Achievement in Radio/podcasts.
Does anybody listen to podcasts here? Anybody?
The most shameless, but not the only, plea for applause tonight. Looking out at the crowd tonight, we see some nominees from those 3 categories and from the 9 other exciting categories that all of which will help define what makes New York so exciting to live in and visit.
But of course, looking out into the audience tonight, we also see a lot of people who are not tour guides. So I just wanted to ask real quickly, how many people here are tour guides and members of GANYC? Okay, all right. That means the rest of you are not tour guides. You are either nominees, presenters, or you're just our favorite kind of people interested in New York City.
Or you're just confused and you thought this was the 8 p.m. showing of Emma. Well, unfortunately, that is across the street.
We did have Emma up here.
That is true.
That was your 8 p.m. Emma, right here, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
So anyway, a good number of you are tour guides, so we thought that we'd offer some insights this evening on what an individual needs to do in order to officially become a New York City tour guide.
Oh, yeah.
Because folks, there are laws for this stuff.
Yeah, there are laws. According to the mayor's office, as a New York City Department of Consumer Affairs, who must have a sightseeing guide license? Okay? Quote, you must have a sightseeing guide license to guide or direct people to any place or point of public interest, or to describe, explain, or lecture about any place or point of public interest to any person in connection with any sightseeing trip or tour within the city.
All right, so a little narrow there. And to get that license, though, you need to take a test. The infamous sightseeing guide exam. Love that one.
Half the audience knows what we're talking about. That also means that businesses who employ tour guides must only employ officially licensed New York City tour guides, okay? We know this firsthand because a year and a half ago, as Emma just referenced, we launched Bowery Boys Walks, and we decided to only employ officially licensed New York City tour guides.
Yes.
Hopefully also members of GANYC.
Yes, they should be members of GANYC. And just to show some solidarity, I must say, last year, we decided to go ahead and take the tests ourselves as well. Even though we don't lead the tours, we wanted to be officially licensed tour guides. Well,
that's right.
Okay, one of us took the test.
We don't need to air our dirty laundry here, Greg.
Fine.
So, anyway.
One of us took the test.
The test is really quite interesting because it combines history and practical information. What are you doing, Greg?
What?
What are you doing?
Oh, I had completely forgotten that I brought along my official New York City sightseeing license this evening. How about this? This is for my Times Square, my future Times Square.
That's
tour.
very nice. Greg got his a year and a half ago, that's true.
Yes.
I have some breaking news. I also took the test last Thursday. Thank you for that. Thank you.
And how did you do?
I passed it. Come on. Yes, thank you. Yes, passed it. Now, just to explain a little bit for those of you who are not guides, the exam is given by that Department of Consumer Affairs down in a busy sort of take a number kind of bureaucratic room on Lower Broadway.
Yes, there are 150 multiple choice and yes or no questions. And you need to get 97 of them correct in order to pass, which, let's face it, that's pretty lenient.
So the pressure is on because you are taking a test in a government office. It's a little bit like trivia night at the bar meets the DMV. You can imagine that.
So tonight, at certain points throughout the evening, we're going to reveal how to navigate some of the trickier parts of that exam. We want everyone here to be able to join GANYC by next year's award show.
Yes. We have put you on notice, ladies and gentlemen. But now let's get the apple rolling with the very first award for Outstanding Achievement in Support of New York City Culture.
She is a blue jazz recording artist and international performer who has sung at the Blue Note, the Apollo, and Harlem Late Night Jazz, among many others. He is the founder of Blacks on Wall Street and chairman of the board of the Negro Ensemble Theater Company.
Please welcome Whitney Marshall Jackson and Dennis Kurt Creary.
We'll do it together.
So, Dennis, you're one of those Wall Street type guys?
From time to time, you know. You're one of those singer sorts, aren't you?
You know it. And what is that beautiful accent you have?
I'm from Birmingham, England, and I think that the guys from London might disagree, but, you know. Where's yours from?
Well, you know, there really are black people in Iowa. I grew up in Iowa, and I traveled around the country. I was in Los Angeles, and then I settled in the South for a bit, and eventually I made my way here to New York, the home, the greatest city in the world.
But what really brought you here, sweetheart?
Dinero, the money.
Yeah, me too. I'm coin operated, so yeah.
Well, opportunity may bring thousands upon thousands to move to our fine city every year, but it's the rich well of culture that keeps us here.
Yeah, the heartbeat of the city that pulses all around us, from subway performers to Broadway actors.
To a Shabba jazz singer.
Indeed. Yeah, it's these artists, these performers, dreamers and idealists who really make the hustle, the grind, the graft, as we say in England, worthwhile.
Exactly, and even when that hustle has to be 2 subway transfers, a bus ride, whether you were born or raised here, or you took a chance on the unknown of NYC, once the city gets into your blood, it's hard to find a reason to leave.
And they've got the subway rat as well, so.
Yeah.
And the nominees for Outstanding Achievement in Support of NYC truly makes it that much easier to feel at home, providing the sort of cultural experiences that our bodies ache and our souls yearn for.
And they are?
Black Gotham Experience, the Bronx Documentary Center,
The Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Community Center, the Poetry Society of the New York City. And the GANYC Apple Award goes to
Black Gotham Experience.
Black Gotham Experience.
And approaching are the Black Gotham Experience, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow. Oh, man. It's a good thing I took my tour guide test twice. So I failed the first time. Anybody failed the first time? Raise your hand, just me? Alright. Okay, still a minority. It happens. I needed more time. I just needed to, I needed 3 hours versus like 30 minutes. But I'm really almost at a loss for words. I try to like organize what I would possibly say, but whatever I could have written an hour ago or 2 days ago wouldn't match the way it feels to be right here in front of you. And so I'm gonna like fumble fresh and just say that I've been an artist pretty much since I was able to pick up a pencil, and I've been a history nerd since I began to appreciate books. But one of the communities that I often don't get a chance to spend time with in this magnitude are other tour guides. And so I really appreciate being able to see the work that Black Gotham Experience is doing is acknowledged by the Tour Guides Association here in New York City. It's really just a true privilege and humbling in many regards. And I think that the things that people do in New York City when you're like interpreting the streets, there's so much history here in New York. And the ability that we take to like make those moments magical and bring history together with like conversations is something that we do on a regular basis. But for people who like always come through the city, it's New York to them, right? New York is what you show them. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for acknowledging us. And I want to give a shout out to all the other nominees. Your work is crucial. Thank you for what you do. And everybody part of Black Gotham Experience, our whole family of guides and artists and nerds. This is for us and this is for the future. Thank you all.
Now, Tom, did you know that we are standing just a single block from an important literary site?
That's right. I think you're talking about a block away from here. We have the Chelsea Hotel, right? A famous favorite hangout for Dylan Thomas, for William S. Burroughs. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, first of all, what the hell is happening at the Chelsea Hotel? Like, what is what's going on there? Anyways, I don't even know. Second of all, actually, I was referring to a destination over just to the west of us. The former location of a mansion that gives the neighborhood its name, Chelsea. That was the home of Clement Clark Moore, who wrote a very famous poem from this mansion, A Visit to St. Nicholas, or 'Twas the Night Before Christmas.
Yes, yes.
Block away.
Gets applause. It's that kind of a crowd. Published in 1823, just 12 years after the Commissioner's Plan. Imagine that. I wonder what it would have been like had he written that today. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and off near the High Line, a young reindeer wore Geoffrey while sipping some white wine.
Santa sprang to his sleigh to give his team a whistle. Let's go get our selfies taken up at the vessel.
But I heard him explain ere he flew out of sight.
Follow me on Insta, and to all, hashtag good night.
But seriously, folks, let's celebrate those who actually...
But seriously.
We're going to celebrate those who actually preserve history tonight, shall we? To present the award for Outstanding Achievement in Support of New York City Preservation, we have two of the brilliant people who preserve the culture of our city at the Gotham Center for New York City History.
Please welcome Peter Eigner and Jessica George.
Practice of preservation in this city is often a connotation of landmarking a building that has a significance in our history or our landscape before it meets a wrecking ball.
True. That's why we were hesitant to take on the task of presenting this category at first.
But as we can all see from the nominees this year, the act of maintaining integrity to our skyline is not the only act of preservation worth celebrating.
Exactly. As anyone who's been in this city long enough will know, just because the look of a building hold its historic importance, the stories can still get lost.
Especially when you have a Starbucks move into the space of an old mom and pop dry cleaners.
Or a co-working giant into the space of a beloved department store.
it becomes the task of historians, neighbors, activists, and survivors to remind us all of where we came from.
And that is exactly what we attempt to do at the Gotham Center for New York City History, and what all of GANYC member tour guides do with every group of knowledge seekers they entertain.
So for their work in this field, we thank the nominees for outstanding achievement in support of New York City preservation, and they are the Bronx River Alliance,
Yeah, Bronx!
East Harlem Preservation, Inc.,
The Murray Hill Neighborhood Association, and the New York City Trans Oral History Project. And the GANYC Apple Award goes to
the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association,
Accepting for the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association, Susan Dowd.
I'd like to thank the Guides Association of New York City for this award. I'm thrilled to accept this honor on behalf of the Preservation Design Committee of the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association. 3 of our Preservation and Design members are licensed New York City guides. I am supported by a wonderful group of people. We've had a great series of years with 3 cultural medallions, 29 buildings proposed for landmarking, and our new film, a walking tour of historic Murray Hill, featuring 14 New York City landmarks. We have walking tours the last Sunday of the month from March through November, and a street festival the first Saturday in June, this year on June 6th. Come check us out. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna get back to the test prep questions,
That's
ladies
right.
and gentlemen, because we are serious about this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because we want the other half of the audience to be able to get their license.
Right, so there are 150 questions, and roughly half of them are about tour buses.
That's an inside joke. It might be a slight exaggeration because most of the questions are actually about, cultural things, New York City history. But yeah, there are a lot of questions about tour buses, which makes sense because a lot of those drivers of tour buses from outside the city have never, they're not used to driving in New York City. So you, the tour guide, are actually sort of, you're saving the day potentially. You are here to keep everybody safe on the streets of New York City.
Why don't we actually go ahead and quiz the audience on one particular question here?
Okay.
Okay, so see if you can still pass the exam here. We've got an actual question from the test. After each answer, so I'm going to read the question, and then we're going to go through each answer, and if you feel like the answer is correct, applaud or hoop or whatever you do when you get a question right on an exam. Anyway, so the question is, a tour bus may load and unload passengers at which of the following spots?
A, they're laughing already. Because they've been there. A, in loading zones. It's true. A, yes, that's true. No,
That's one of it. It was several. It's multiple answers.
There are multiple correct answers. So who thinks you can unload and load passengers in a loading zone? Thank you. Yes, you're correct.
B, in a no standing zone. Actually, that's true. That's true.
That's right. Okay. C.
That's why. See, that's why.
It actually
Get me
explains a
started on
lot
these
about
tour
the
bus
streets of New York.
questions.
C. At MTA bus stops. The answer is no. Those are red zones, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Don't even try.
And D, in front of Trump Tower. That is also known. That is what's known as an orange zone.
All right. Well, no matter where these buses decide to pull over, they are filled with a diverse range of tourists from around the world, and the tourism industry reflects that diversity as well. with the languages spoken and personal backgrounds of each guide being as different as their storytelling styles and favorite recommendations.
To present the next award, Outstanding Achievement in Support of New York City Tourism, please welcome to the stage Christina Lombardi and Matt Apter.
Congratulations.
No, don't stop.
And you're presenting here tonight.
I am.
And you've got 2 kids at home.
I do. 2 children, yes, but the night is young. Do you have kids?
No, I have rabbits.
You have rabbits. You have rabbits.
Yeah, rabbits.
You didn't want like a dog or a
No,
cat?
no, I wanted something that pooped more.
You should meet my children.
But tour guiding, of course, is how you feed your poopy children.
And it's how you feed your poopy rabbits.
Yes, exactly. And that puts us in good company with 109 million people around the world who also work in the tourism industry.
You know, 109 million, that's roughly the combined populations of Italy and South Korea.
Oh. How'd you do that?
I Googled it.
Nice. Nice.
But with rumblings around the world of words like over-tourism, we find our industry is no closer to acceptance in the hearts of the very communities it celebrates than it ever was.
Yeah, it's almost like people think it was better when tourism was only for rich people.
But the economic benefits of tourism for the very people who decry it are undeniable.
And the social benefits are indisputable.
And the services bestowed on the city and the industry, as well as the community, those are visible.
Indeed, and these are for very cool New York individuals and institutions who have made tourism better for New York City.
The nominees for Outstanding Achievement in Support of New York City Tourism are: for keeping the historic legacy of Coney Island alive, Luna Park.
For leading the fight for tour guides and their value on Liberty and Ellis Islands, Michael Morgenthau.
For making an invisible history visible, the New York City LGBT Historic Sites Project.
For revitalizing and promoting the coastlines and communities of New York City, Waterfront Alliance.
And the GANYC Apple Award goes to...
It's Michael Morgenthau.
I've been in GANYC for 8 years. When I started, I did not need glasses to read my notes, but things have changed a little bit, so just please excuse me for a second while I get this out. I'm extremely honored and humbled to have won this award. When I became a tour guide 8 years ago, I stumbled into this wonderful community of tour guides that I had no idea existed. And these are people who have become friends and valued colleagues and inspire me and educate me every single day. And getting an award from this association, I can't even put it into words how much it means to me. So I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much. However, there are a few people who I want to specifically thank for the help that they gave to me and to the association for our fight to keep tour guides' rights front and center when it comes to guiding at the Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island. So some of you might be here. If you're not, you're in our thoughts, but those of you here, if you want to stand up, I'll share the applause and the award with you. Sal Balby, Kevin Fitzpatrick, Kristen Singleton-Ferrari, Harvey Davidson, Tom Bernardin, Bob Gelber, and Jared Goldstein. Now, these were just a few of the members of GANYC and the tour guide community at large who really helped with our efforts to try to keep our rights to give guided tours at the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. We were able to win some concessions from the National Park Service, which was a big step forward for our association. As you heard Emma describe before, and Christina referenced this a little bit, we haven't always been the most recognized part of the tourism industry. That is starting to change due in large part to the efforts of this association, of which I am just a small part. This fight taught us a lot of lessons, things that we're going to take forward as we continue to advocate for the rights and the prestige of tour guides who know New York City better than anybody else. So I'm honored to be just a small part of that effort. I accept this award very humbly, and thank you very much.
So, as some of you may know, tomorrow is what they call Super Tuesday.
I thought we were done with politics, Greg.
I just have a problem with this. I think it's so funny that we call it Super Tuesday, like Super Tuesday. Are there fans of the TV show Schitt's Creek in here?
Yeah!
So imagine if Alexis was given a pundit spot on national TV. Like, oh my God, yeah, I'm having like a Super Tuesday.
Like a super duper Tuesday?
Like, God, David, ew.
Okay, moving on. That semi-landed.
on one heel, on one high heel, I think.
Yeah, that's your
well, anyway, moving on to podcasts. We know a lot about podcasts, as we have been making one for 13 years.
Since they were in diapers.
What we enjoy about hosting a podcast is also presenting New York City to our listeners, and that is what this award, the Outstanding Achievement in Radio/Podcast, Audio Spoken Word, it's what this award celebrates.
That's right. He is a stand-up comedian and comedy writer who hosts the popular sketch comedy podcast, the Rate and Subscribe podcast. She is a past winner of this very award, co-host of Joanna and Kevin's Big Show.
We love these two. Give it up for Nat Towson and Joanna Lieben.
We can't like kiss. We have to like do this. This is what we do now.
I was going to touch their faces, but
Yeah, let's
we're
not.
improvising now.
Yeah. So if there's one thing New Yorkers like to do, it's to talk. Put a microphone in the room and you have a podcast.
Hey, let's do that right now.
Not like right now.
No, like right now. I'm recording this on my phone. This is a podcast. Now you're my co-host, and this is our first guest.
Oh my God, we have a podcast. I'm so excited.
We'll talk about sponsored dividends later.
Sponsor and dividends. But to break out from the rest of the pack in a world of streams and downloads, the very best podcasts need to have their own niche and voice.
Luckily for listeners, New York is a fertile ground for content. There's no shortage of stories, characters, and topics when it comes to producing a show about a feature of New York. But this year, the Guides Association has nominated 4 unique shows that tap into a dose of New York-style history.
New York style history or New York style?
No, New York-style history.
New York style
Not New York
history.
style
Okay.
history.
We had a little debate before about what
It should
dash.
have been hyphenated.
Hyphenated, no hyphen. Okay, our nominees have produced, well, it happened. Our nominees have produced shows well worth listening to, from topics as diverse as the roots of the gay pride movement to the literary icons of the vicious circle or must-read history books to have on your subway ride to the life and times of barrier-breaking entertainer Fanny Bryce.
So when you turn on your podcast app later today, all 4 of these podcasts are worth adding to your favorites list and also subscribing to, and you're going to want to rate them 5 stars as well. And write them a review. It really helps with the algorithm. It really does. Like, just doesn't matter what you say in the review, just 100 characters or more. And if they have sponsors, use their promo code so the sponsors know that it came from the podcast.
I think promo codes are awesome. I use them all the time. That hair thing, what is it, Madison Reed? The Madison Reed has like the niche podcast. I don't know, they have like the exclusive rights.
Right. Buy a mattress from all 4 of these podcasts.
Yes, all 4. So, do you want to tell them who's nominated?
That is what it says next. The nominees for Outstanding Radio Program, Podcast, Audio, or Spoken Word are Hirschfeld Century Podcast, Al Hirschfeld Foundation, Episode 24, The Algonquin Roundtable. The History Author Show.
History Goes Bump. It's a haunted gay life. Stuff You Missed in History Class. Fanny Bryce, Part 1 and 2.
And the GANYC Apple Award goes to Stuff You Missed in History Class.
Fanny Bryce.
Part 1 and 2.
Part 1 and 2. It doesn't say that. I should get it since we just started a podcast.
We'll accept them on our behalf. Oh my God, we've already won an award and we're still recording our first episode.
We're just doing it right now. This is so exciting.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Oh my God, we're keeping it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, let's go take it.
Matt, that's so meta. Winning an award during the podcast that you're winning the award for. That's very nouveau. But anyway, let's hear it for the glory of podcasts and podcasters, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so back for a moment now. We're going back to our study prep for that exam, whether you want to or not. We've got the tour buses down.
So
right?
so as we heard earlier, they can stop wherever they want.
Mostly.
Mostly.
But it turns out that they can't drive everywhere that they want, okay? You should probably study up on which roads and parkways and bridges and tunnels those tour buses can even go through.
Right, I mean, can a tour bus drive on the FDR Drive, on the West Side Highway at Central Park South?
Yeah, well, fortunately, they advise you to look at the MTA's website for that, so I printed off some pages from the MTA.
Oh, okay, let's go right to the source here.
And
This should be a real juicy bit here.
Yeah.
Let's see.
It's all very simple. Let's see. Tour buses, see charter buses. Charter buses, they see truck routes. Okay, hold on 1 second.
You know, this is getting really complicated.
Okay, truck routes for passengers, call an Uber.
Or you can simply look it up at nyc.gov. And while we're awkwardly on the subject of websites that I just squeezed in there, to present the award for Outstanding New York City Website, he is a legend in the world of travel media, host of the YouTube series 100 Wonders, and co-founder of Atlas Obscura.
Please welcome Dylan Thuris.
You guys are an extremely well-dressed crowd. I got here and I was like, I've made a terrible mistake. Anyway, hello. So travelers who've never been to New York City know it better than they think they do. They know it from movies, television, books, newspapers, and of course, from the internet. Pictures, stories, maps, these things have been around since people have wanted to go around that next rock. But the internet's only a couple of generations old. But no doubt, the internet is how we plan our travel. We review online, we search online, we plan, and we live vicariously online, looking at that one place that's always been slightly out of reach. The Frick Bowling Alley. I'm looking at you. Tonight, 4 websites highlight our love of New York history, business, real estate, and activism, all online. We have 6 Square Feet, Queens, New York, the New York City LGBT Historic Sites Project, and Old NYC, all up for the award. And the winner is Old NYC. Yeah, come on up.
Accepted.
Thank you so much. So I moved to New York about 10 years ago on a temporary basis for a 1-month trial, and I didn't really have a lot to do on my first weekend. So I looked up what tours were going on, and there was a bicycle tour of historic breweries of Brooklyn. And so I wound up doing that, and that really convinced me to stay in New York City. So 10 years later, I'm still here. I built a photo mapping website for San Francisco previously, and so when I moved to New York, I met with some people from the New York Public Library Map Division, and they're the ones who really made this possible. They had all their information online, and as soon as I went and met with them, they just sent me a spreadsheet and told me to do what I wanted to do. So huge thanks to them. Since I built the San Francisco site before, I thought it was going to be about a 2-week project. But then, about 3 years later, Old NYC finally launched. So you should check it out. It shows photos from different cross streets all around New York City. I haven't really done a whole lot with the website since it launched a few years ago. But the great thing about old photos is they just keep getting older. So the thing that's made me most happy though is that I also put all the data for my website online, and other people have taken that data and continued with it. So a couple built an iOS app for it, and now the Urban Archive has been combining the data with photos from other collections. So if you have any data, if you have any historic photos, put them online. And I can't promise that a software engineer will give you hundreds of hours of unpaid labor, but you never know. Thank you.
All right, moving on to photography. You know, ladies and gentlemen, most people don't realize that some of the first photos ever taken were taken here in New York City. In fact, around 1839, the first permanent photographic images were taken on a rooftop near Washington Square.
Now, in fact, the subject of this very first photographic image, this portrait actually, was a woman named Dorothy Catherine Draper. And the photo was taken at a new college that would later be known as New York University.
Yes. And let's hear it for NYU. And, taking that photo was no small feat.
No, this is, 1839, winter, 1840. Very difficult to take a picture. Dorothy had to sit perfectly still for just 1 minute and not move, and her head was locked in a metal brace to prevent the image from moving. So she was essentially like this for like a minute.
To further demonstrate this, I thought it might be fun to actually really show what this was like. So I brought this metal vise here, Greg, and if you could just hold still.
Sure,
for 1
okay.
second.
Now I'm thinking of it.
Actually, I don't even know if
I think this is kind of running long. I don't think we have time to take a daguerreotype tonight, although that would be really fun. So why don't you put that away? All right, that's an interesting prop that we brought for a bit for an award show. But
Fortunately, Home Depot takes refunds. The award for Outstanding Achievement in New York City Photography will be presented by a photographer the New York Times called, quote, the man who took hip-hop's baby pictures. A Bronx native who has spent his career shooting on the streets and stages of New York.
Please welcome a former SVA student back tonight, Joe Conzo.
How's everybody doing tonight? Woo! Welcome to the house. There you go. New York City and photography go together like hip-hop in the Bronx. Since 1848, when the first daguerreotype was taken in the city, of course, street photography of Broadway, images have come to define New York for the world. People who have never been to the city know New York from photos they see. It is ranked the most photographed city in the world. For photographers, there's no limits from what to shoot, from the streets to studios. In this spirit, the Guides Association have nominated 4 photographers from diverse paths in this field, from art to photojournalism, who have captured images across the city from subway tracks to a drone. The nominees for Outstanding Achievement in New York City Photography are, for 2 bad boys that wandered onto the end-line tracks, Mark Herman. For Streets of New York, Yankee Stadium, Alex Rivera. For Revere Sugar Refinery, Red Hook, Nathan Kessinger. For Night Blooms, Ross Rowling. And the GANYC Apple Award goes to 2 bad boys, Mark Herman.
Thank you very much to everyone at GANYC. You know, it's interesting, my first photo award I ever won was back in 1997. It was for a firefighter saving a cat at a fire on Montague Street in Brooklyn. And the last photo award I won was for a certain elected official that involved a groundhog. We're not going to talk about that. But I never really considered myself a wildlife photographer. Here we go. But those of us who work at New York City Transit, all 51,000 of us, have come to expect the unexpected. And I'm joined tonight by my colleague Molly Washin, who's our Senior Director for Customer Experience. And she was actually handling our customer messaging the day that this happened. And it's interesting that it's not every day that a delay on the N line in the middle of the afternoon in Brooklyn generates 10,000 likes on a tweet with 3,300 retweets. So this was certainly something different. But I'm very proud to be part of a team that works at that confluence of customer information and having a little fun at the same time. We were doing it before New Jersey was doing it. Right? We are part of a really good team, and more importantly, we have the chance to make a difference in people's lives, and in this case, two goats' lives. As a result of these tweets going out and garnering so much attention, that very night, Jon Stewart was able to intercede using his contacts and was able to get these goats from the Care and Control Center on Linden Boulevard up to the Farm Sanctuary in upstate New York, where to this day they are living their best lives. So we did good. We did good. We're from the government. We're here to help. We really are. So again, thank you very much to everyone. Thank you to all the other nominees. Congratulations to everyone. Have a good evening. Thank you.
All right. Everybody in New York City tourism knows that we lost one of our brightest lights this year. Lee Gelber was a teacher and a mentor to an entire generation of guides, including many of whom are in this room tonight.
In 2016, he was the first recipient of the Guiding Spirit Award. This year, in honor of that mentorship and service to the community, the belief in professional standards and continuing education, the faith that guided touring is a legitimate profession worthy of the highest respect, the trophy that he inaugurated has been renamed the Lee Gelber Award for Guiding Spirit.
To present the honor tonight, we're welcoming the treasurer of GANYC, the chairman of the Public Relations Committee, member of the Membership Committee, the Awards Committee, the Education Committee, and I think I saw him selling popcorn outside. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Jeremy Wilcox.
So the Lee Gelber Award for Guiding Spirit was created to honor a veteran tour guide and a GANYC member who has served as both a mentor and a role model, a beacon of excellence in our industry, and a pillar of our professional community. Each year, the trophy is given to someone who is not merely someone that we know and love, but someone that we can point to and say, that's the type of tour guide that I would like to be. This year, we are privileged to give this award to Mr. Joe Spalak. I first met Joe while taking one of his fam tours, and I suspect a lot of people in this room can say the same. After all, where do you meet Joe if not on tour? He has offered more fam tours more often in more neighborhoods to more people than anyone I have known in my time at GANYC. And he's so generous with his time that if one of his tours sells out, he simply says, let's do another one. And that one will usually fill up as well. Everybody at GANYC loves Joe's tours, and everybody loves to take them. Now, here's a fun fact. Joe is exactly twice my age, but you would never know it from taking one of his tours. On his tours, you need to be prepared to do some serious walking. He keeps the blood pumping and the heart racing, both literally and symbolically, as he shares the incredible love he has for every neighborhood. And that's not just hyperbole. Every neighborhood, Sunset Park, the Lower West Side, the Upper East Side, Coney Island, downtown Brooklyn, you name it. He's lived everywhere, he's toured everywhere, and he's fought for preservation everywhere. There is not a neighborhood that Joe does tours on that isn't for him genuinely home. And the magic of what he shares on these tours for the duration is that you really get to see it and feel it at home as well. For myself, I can testify that Joe has changed the way I look at these neighborhoods. His attention to the little details, the things that no one else cares about, Joe cares about, and he makes you care about them as well. Whether it's a house of worship in a faith that's not your own, a shop that sells products that you normally don't buy, or a residence for people whose lifestyle is utterly unlike your own, Joe can show you how to revel in them as a civic presence, a cultural presence, and a meaningful part of that community. They were always there, but now you look in them at a new light thanks to Joe. There's no surprise that Joe comes from the world of preservation. The narrative of the city is, of course, embedded in the architecture of its neighborhoods. Every street Joe walks down, he tells us, here's where we worked with the Landmark Preservation Commission to get it protected, about whatever neighborhood we might be exploring. What more natural progression could there be to go from someone who protects these sites to being the one who tells their story? In Joe's own words, that's how I learned all along, by being involved in things. And how perfect for a son of Czech and Slovak immigrants to keep the remnants of his parents' adopted home alive, and then to make the natural segue into keeping their stories alive as well. His story is New York. Let's take a look.
Except just to say thank you. And this is one of the most wonderful, wonderful events of my life. I didn't expect to get an award like this for doing things that I like. I mean, I talk anyway, you know, and here I'd like to take people around, show them the city, and we just keep on going and going, and I don't realize how much I've done already. But I guess that's my age now, you know, like I'm twice Jeremy's age, and I'm still at it. And you've seen me in all my different looks. I'm trying to look younger now, you know, so I'm trying to feel younger anyway. And it's actually, I was thinking back, because here I am guiding spirit? Okay. I stopped and I thought about that, and it brought me back to my family. And my family were my guiding spirits. They taught me about community, involvement, become part of the solution, don't be a problem, do what you can do to make things better. And from their example, I guess I kind of, learned what to do, and I had to do things. Of course, when you're involved in, lack of city services in places where you're living and so on, and you start with other people of like mind, and when they have good intentions, and you want to get together, and they've been guiding me, the people that I've been working with all along through various community organizations and places, and it's wonderful to have some of them here with me now today. I have my neighborhood from Sunset Park. Sunset Park, raise your hand out there, yeah. Wonderful people. I mean, I could go on in stories of people who start organizations. They're sitting back there, and they were my guiding spirits to keep on going with our almost 40-year campaign to get landmarking for the neighborhood, and there are people sitting here now who helped that to happen. So that was my guiding inspiration to keep going, because you're not alone. When you're in all of these wonderful organizations, and like GANYC, you're not alone. You're all my guiding spirits. You're all here to be, showing me what to do and how you do things, and I learn from all of you. So I've had a privilege to work with so many of you too. And I also, currently, we're still, it took 40 years almost to get landmarkings from Sunset Park, and there are people here, in the profession who have helped us and all as well too. And we are still trying on the Lower West Side, which was a neighborhood that most people didn't even know existed until we started to tell people about it. And tourism, taking people on walking tours. It's the best way you get to understand the neighborhood. You understand the feeling of the street, what's there, the details, the built environment, how it makes you feel when you're on the street. And it tells a story. And through those built environment, you can interpret the story of what it was at the time, and then people can get a realization that things did happen there. They weren't just the stories we're telling, there's still a reality to touchstone with. And we're still trying to get the downtown community house. For 11 years, my friends on the Lower West Side, raise your hand, you're here too, some of you, right? Thank you so much for all the support, because you're my guiding spirits as well too, that in this struggle, we're not alone, and we won't take no for an answer. We keep on trying. So the message is, I keep on going. And this is my, going to be my 80th year on this planet, so, yeah. And you're all my guiding spirits, because I have something to share with all of you and to learn from all of you. So the big word for me is communication. And that communication we're all doing on our, daily walks, when we look and we see and we were able to interact with people. And we, the guides, have that ability to do it on a grander scale, because we have so many people coming to us who want to know about the city and understand more because of all our own personal experiences. And it's those personal things that Jeremy was talking about, and some of those blurbs that you saw up there about me, that make the realization, the story of our great city come alive. We all have our own stake in it. Our reasons why and how we do everything are particular from us, and we radiate that, and we give that to the people that we are privileged to show around our great city. So I don't know what more to say, except I do owe a lot of thanks to people who got me really into all of this, because I had some great mentors along the way. I had Justin Ferrati, who told me, Joe, you can do tours? Okay, so he got me started. He introduced me to the Guides Association. And also my colleagues and my mentors at the Municipal Art Society when I first got started, Francis Maroney and Matt Postal and Tony Robbins, they were my guiding spirits. I would watch and go on their tours and see what they would do, and I would learn from them, and I'm still learning from them. So there are many guiding spirits. We're all each other's guiding spirits, and also I owe a thank you to my friend and colleague Elliot Niles of Brooklyn Attitudes. He got me my first job as a licensed guide. So I was doing a lot of volunteer work before that, giving tours of the neighborhood to promote the neighborhood and such, so that we would, get more people in the neighborhood, more people involved and understanding, and become part of the solution of the problems that we had been facing. So all that volunteer work was when I was doing tours back in the 70s and 80s, and then by the 90s I got the license, because Marty Markowitz was bringing double-decker buses to Brooklyn as promoting them. So Elliot had faith in me, and he said, well, I want you on one of my double-decker buses, so I had to get a license. And so the rest is history. So now I'm really thanking the Guides Association for giving me this opportunity to share our wonderful city with all of you, because this is special. I mean, I'm able to take the guides on a tour. I mean, think about that. You know, it's like I'm teaching the guides. They're teaching me because they're giving me their reactions and their knowledge of things that I don't know about where I'm taking them. So this is all the guiding spirit that we have all within us that we share. So I look forward to many more wonderful, FAM tours, working with the Education Committee, the wonderful Education Committee that we have, and all the many volunteer committees that make this association one of the richest and the most diverse associations you will find anywhere in the world when you consider all the backgrounds that we all come from. We don't go to school for this. We've all come to this profession through our own understanding and backgrounds that we want to give, and we want to be part of this great love affair of New York City. So I'm here. I'm your guiding spirit now. So if you need anything, we can talk, okay? We'll see where we can go with it all. Thank you very much. This is an achievement of a lifetime for me. Thank you so much.
What an inspiration. Congratulations, Joe.
Thank you.
We're going to turn now to outstanding achievement in New York City, book writing fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Every guide needs to know several examples of New York City themed fiction, literature, in order to get their license, back to that. And also in order to spice up their tours with a little bit of juicy prose,
But don't overdo it, because that can get very pretentious. Unless, well, very, very quickly, I would think. Yeah.
But unless it's that kind of a tour, and
Yes,
there are tours for that, that's right.
Yes.
Consider, though, all of the great authors who have called New York City home. I mean, it's actually an endless list.
Yes.
From going back to Herman Melville, Emma Lazarus, James Baldwin, Walt Whitman going back.
And Jennifer Egan, who actually
Last
won
year.
the GANYC Apple Award last year in this category, right? So, okay, so where do we even start, like studying-wise? So in terms of this test, we recommend, write this down, brushing up on a little bit of E.B. White, okay? And you also may want to spend a little time with Edith Wharton.
Oh, we have a walking tour for that. That's an ad, sorry. To present the next award for outstanding achievement in New York City book writing fiction, we have a New York playwright and a screenwriter who is known for writing successful movie adaptations of his mother's widely loved novels, Bridge to Terabithia and The Great Gilly Hopkins.
Please welcome David L. Patterson.
So thanks for having to follow Joe. Okay, so yeah, that's it. All right, so let's get this out of the way, get a little pressure off me. Another round of applause for Joe, okay? Takes a little pressure off me. Now, my wife said to me, she said, just say what they ask and not what you want. And so, just not to scare Matthew, I'm not going to go too far off book, but because they have a huge book for me to read here. But what I wanted to tell you is, I started out as a history major, and I can't remember what I had for breakfast. So I know what the challenges are for what you guys do, and the importance of what you carry on. And especially for the books that we're going to be talking about, they create history that not only do people read now, but they'll read down throughout the times. And not only do you present history today, but these books present history down the road, which I think is very important. So I'm going to get very robotic and start reading exactly what I was supposed to read, because it's kind of complicated. So I want to be charming for a brief moment and then go to exactly what I was supposed to say. So New York City is a stage perfect for fiction. It's a place that continually gives authors a broad canvas to paint on, where story ideas are limitless. The books that are nominated this year are truly remarkable in that they span multiple periods and cultures among the 5 boroughs. The Guides Association has nominated 4 novelists who all share the New York City as their setting, and they spin tales to enthrall readers. Tonight we have organized crime mystery set in the Depression, a 19th century upstairs-downstairs queer romance, a contemporary love story sent against the NYPD, and a Brooklyn family drama that spans the decades. These are the nominees for Outstanding Achievement in New York City Book Writing Fiction. Askin Yes by Mary Beth Keane. Departing Glass by Gina Marie Guadagnino. The Pearl Dagger, an Art Deco mystery by L.A. Chandler. Red at the Bone by Jacqueline Woodson. And the GANYC, oh, this is going to be one of those crazy things because the envelope is empty. I got it. All right, the GANYC Apple Award goes to, my wife would be so angry if she wasn't here, and she's not. L.A. Chandler.
Carol Burnett and go down the stairs. But gosh, I am so honored to be here. I moved here shortly after 9/11, and I've told so many people over the years that I didn't know it till after I moved here that I've been looking for New York my whole life. I write the Art Deco Mystery Series, and I specifically chose the 1930s because I feel like our city has a specific way to shine in times of adversity. Our humor, like with Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia is one of my main characters, and our grit and our art and our determination is remarkable. In 1937, Hulbert Footner wrote one of my favorite tour guide books of all time called New York City of Cities. You'd all totally love it. But one of my favorite quotes was, he said, New York has this magical quality. You could see something 99 times and on the 100th time be completely arrested by its magnificence. You, all of you nominees and you amazing guides, that's exactly what you do. You introduce people to New York's magnificence. And that is why this is really, really special for me. Thank you.
David almost gave Tom a heart attack there. He's got all the envelopes, so that would be just one Bowery boy. Or maybe an empty envelope is just a conceptual win. And what is winning, right? Now, I recently celebrated a birthday, and Tom bought me a very nice present. A book.
That's right. I was worried, because we read 1 million books for the show, and what do you get a guy who's read every book about New York City, well, most of the books about New York City? How do you find a book for this person here to read and just enjoy it, not even for a show?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Tom gave me...
You brought it along?
Finding Zsa Zsa, the Gabors Behind the Legend. Do you know this book? Finding Zsa Zsa.
How are you liking it?
Well, let me literally just go to a page at random and read something. Here.
Okay, page 9.
When Moulin Rouge opened in New York on February 10th, 1953, Zsa Zsa had star billing second only to Jose Ferrer. That night, the same New York that had lain stretched out at Eva's feet 3 years earlier now clamored for Zsa Zsa. If that fickle city spoke with a single voice, it might well have rasped, Eva who? We want Zsa Zsa. Send her out that we may know her.
So,
Finding Zsa Zsa by Sam Stacks. It is like. Anyway.
So what you're saying is
I
you love
it.
it.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
It's rich. I love it. Absolutely. Well, anyway, to present the outstanding achievement in New York City book writing nonfiction, we have proud Lower East Sider and Stuyvesant grad whose book, The Stowaway, is about a city kid who snuck onto Admiral Byrd's ship.
She has written for The New Yorker, New York Magazine, and The Forward, and is currently working on her next book about Amelia Earhart and George Putnam. Please welcome Ms. Lori Gwen Shapiro.
So thrilled
to be here, and as my father would say, I made it above 14th Street without a nosebleed. So I'm going to have to wear my glasses. So asking questions, interviewing strangers, researching facts, walking into libraries. This is what the life of a nonfiction book writer does. It won't matter that someone won't call you back. You still have to reach that person for your story. New York is full of stories, of course, and full of visiting the city and where to go, as well as historical accounts and narratives. The sign of a true New Yorker is that you have a book problem. I'm guilty as charged there. Living in apartments, where are the bookcases going to go? My entire living room is bookcase, by the way. And what fills those Billy bookcases in black or brown are New York City books. And the nominees for the Outstanding Achievement in New York City Book Writing Nonfiction are 111 Places in the Bronx That You Must Not Miss by Kevin Fitzpatrick, 111 Rooftops in New York That You Must Not Miss by Leslie Adato, Be New York Family by Aneke Faze and Patrick von Rosendahl, South Bronx Battles, Stories of Resistance, Resilience, and Renewal by Carolyn McLaughlin. And I actually have the envelope. And the GANYC Apple Award goes to Kevin Fitzpatrick for the box. 111
Thanks, everybody. I didn't write anything down because I'm a guide. First of all, I want to congratulate my fellow nominees in this category. Can I have a round of applause for them? Leslie, who is in the same publishing company, we have the same editor, and it's the same series. The first thing I want to say is there's not a lot of books about the Bronx. In the last 20 years, there's only been one other guidebook besides mine to the Boogie Down. And the last Bronx book to win an award was in 1990, Billy Bathgate. So you could say that E.L. Doctorow is now in some pretty good company. And I should really thank, besides my wife, for supporting me in this adventure, GANYC, because I met my future editor at a GANYC meeting in Weeksville. And what happened is she said, well, I'm the North American editor of the 111 Places series. It started in Cologne, Germany. And Karen said, I'm the new North American editor, and we already have Brooklyn, we already have Queens, and we're going to do the Bronx. And I had just written World War I New York, which also won the GANYC Award, and it had a big section on the Bronx, so I thought I could write a Bronx book. And then the second part of it was, this is the Bronx, and I think we can kick Brooklyn and Queens' ass. But in addition to thanking GANYC, this award would really not be possible without one person, that's Joe Conzo. Joe was not only the photographer of the book, he was a true partner with me in this book. And after my proposal was accepted and I met with him, you should know that he drives a car that says Born in the Bronx. He has Born in the Bronx ink. He has a Born in the Bronx jacket, Born in the Bronx website. He really is the Bronx, and he made that book so much better. He said, some of these categories aren't so good. I have some other ideas. And so that really elevated the book. And the bad thing about finishing the book is I didn't get to see Joe every week. We would drive around the Bronx. He would park wherever he wanted to park. We ate all the food in all the restaurants. I tried all the alcohol in all the bars. We went to every single place in the book. Because you can always tell a guidebook, because I've written a few now, when an author doesn't go to the place. And I wanted us to go to all 111 places and not just Google it. And so this really goes out to him, and it goes out to all the people of the Bronx. And hopefully all of you guides in the room will now want to use this book, buy multiple copies,
to write your own Bronx tours and discover the true gem of New York City. Thank you very much.
Dorothy Parker, Alexander Wolcott, Robert Benchley.
All tour guides should be...
Oh, I thought you were going to say they were all tour guides.
I would like to take a tour of Dorothy Parker, actually. All tour guides should be familiar with these fabulous writers and where they gathered throughout the 1920s for lunch. The famous Algonquin Hotel.
Kevin. Oh, for the days of journalists taking long, boozy lunches, you know, in swanky midtown hotel restaurants, trading barbs with each other before heading back to the office to, you know, tap out gossipy column for the next morning's paper.
Yeah, now we just blog and drink coffee at Gregory's coffee shop.
We do love Gregory's.
Yes.
Just truth be told. But they could use a round table, at least, you know.
But seriously, world-class articles and essays are written every day in this city. To present outstanding achievement in article essay series writing, this glamorous lady has written and edited for Shape, Redbook, Glamour, and 17. She currently writes for Parade Magazine and is the host of the podcast Under the Covers with Claire.
Yes, she also, and you will probably appreciate this, coincidentally holds a very special place in my heart, too, because she helped me find my very first rent-stabilized apartment in New York City.
Lower East Side.
1997, yes. So please welcome our dear friend, Miss Claire Connors.
We love the Bowery boys. Aren't they amazing? Thank you so much. Little known fact, that apartment was in my building and was where the Bowery boys was born. So I got to watch them grow to become the big stars that they are. I'm also very honored to be presenting this award tonight because I am the granddaughter of a newspaper man from New York, and the daughter of a New York journalist, and so it's a real honor to be here to present this award for Outstanding Achievement in Article Essay Series Writing. New York City tour guides make their living talking about history, but we all know that. Before it was history, it was news. Before David McCullough could write about what happened 100 years ago, James Gordon Bennett had to report what happened 10 minutes ago. And with the reports come the editorials and the gossip and the features and the cartoons and all the fun stuff that keeps the news from getting too dry. And we love it. Even if nowadays the news flickers more than it folds, we continue to love it. The nominees for Outstanding Achievement in Article Essay Series Writing are Justin Davidson for I Love Tourism, Why the City is Better When It's Full of Annoying Visitors, New York Magazine. Marie Holland for The Encouraging Travel Trend That's on the Rise, New York Post. Corey Kilgannon for Everyone's Welcome at the Statue of Liberty Except Tour Guides, the New York Times. And Andrew Gustafson for New York City History in 10 Boats, Waterfront Alliance. And the Gannett Apple Award goes to Corey Kilgannon, the New York Times.
Thank you. You know, this coronavirus stuff, I've been writing stories all day long on this disease, so I had to bring my gloves with me. Just kidding. Thanks a lot. I'm a little nervous being up here. I'm definitely out of my league in this room. You know, when you hear punchlines going by your head like the frick bowling alley, you know. And I didn't think I would win, so I didn't prepare anything to say, so... But I've been writing stories about New York for about 25 years, like not necessarily on tour guides, certainly, but I mean, I have written my share of them. In the 90s, I wrote a fellow named Marv Gelfand on the Upper West Side, who was a blind tour guide. And Gary Dennis, I never took his tour, but I rented a lot of videos from his from the movie place. And Gary put me onto a lot of good film noir, and so I probably learned my share of, you know.
Oh, stop.
But Speed Levitch, Sybil DeGroff. I think Sybil's here today. You're the best. But I think it was Jared Goldstein was doing, around Christmas time a couple of years ago, he was doing a tour of New York in Christmas time, and I think the headline was, Santa's a New Yorker, you got a problem with that? And Jared put me on to Michael Morgenthau, who said, we're having a problem, the Statue of Liberty, you know, they are wanting to close off parts of Ellis Island and Liberty Island to tour from people leading tours there. And I'm thinking, you know, give us your huddled masses and this kind of all welcoming place. Suddenly, tour guides aren't welcome, and like has been said here so eloquently, you know, you're the people who show so many people, thousands of people a day, New York City. And so we did a story on, I don't know if it helped the situation, but we certainly did a story that, you know, it was also played into the fact that tourism in New York has gone through the roof in the last decade, and visiting to Statue of Liberty and a lot of other places has too, and so has the tour guide industry. So we did that story, and yeah, I think that's about it. I appreciate this award, it's amazing, and I'm just honored to be here in the room with all you people so knowledgeable about New York. Thanks.
This gentleman is a longtime GANYC member whose tours range from Brooklyn to the Bronx, with subjects that range from culinary to movie and TV to African American history.
Please welcome Mr. Alvin Alexis.
Good evening. A tour guide we all knew used to say, I never met a microphone I didn't like. And of course, that's no surprise for any of us. With our voices, we sing the praises of our city, our favorite institutions, and our favorite historic New Yorkers. But for all of us, the microphone eventually falls silent. The street light, it burns out. The city that never sleeps eventually sleeps. And we take a moment to say goodbye to the New Yorkers who touched us, and through us touched so many more who came to visit this great and glorious city we call home. As we take a last look at the people and places we loved and lost this year, we glory in the diversity of their fields of expertise, the width of their reach, and sadly, even their ages at end. Please remember, and I know this is hard, to show equal love to all and hold your applause until the end of the montage, for each of these beloved individuals and institutions was each in their own way a New Yorker.
take her rings to funeral bell. I don't want to go to heaven. I don't want to go to hell. I happen to love New York.
How's everybody doing out there? We still here? Come on.
I just want to thank the gentleman on the front row who kindly told me after the intro that my zipper was down during the intro. And here's the thing, it would have been down throughout everything that you just saw tonight had you not said that. So
thank you.
Not all heroes wear capes. They wear tuxes.
He came up with that on the fly, actually.
This is where it's going to get good for us, now that we're kind of like delirious a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen.
Sparrows, who knew that one?
Ladies and gentlemen, we now celebrate food.
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 Food. From a handful of McDonald's fries to the finest filet mignon. You can find just about any kind of food on the streets of New York.
Sometimes literally on the streets of New York. I'm proud to live in a city where you can still buy a slice of pizza for just 99 cents. Mm-hmm. Although, if you want to spend $15 on a slice from an artisanal slice boutique made with Bolivian rainwater and topped with truffle-crusted rose petals, have at it.
It's why we live here. Chinese food, Thai food, Ethiopian, Dominican, Russian, Brazilian, Southern. You can order it all here in New York.
And don't forget Chick-fil-A. Or forget about Chick-fil-A.
Fortunately, tonight we are honoring the best of the best. Really, the best of the best of the best.
Here to present outstanding achievement in New York City food, she is a gastronomy influencer and culinary historian who has appeared on the Food Network, ABC, NBC, and the BBC. He is a food photographer who has photographed dishes for the New York Times, Edible Brooklyn, and 111 rooftops in New York that you must not miss.
Please welcome Yolanda Shoshana and Clay Williams.
Hey, you all know how to turn it out. Okay. All right, so Clay, did you happen to have any food tonight at the reception?
Of course. Shout out to Red Hook Lobster Pound and Tipsy Scoop Food.
And you know I had a couple of drinks so I could be a little loose. I'm always a little loose.
Speaking of drinks, an Italian immigrant from Salerno, a Hungarian immigrant with a penchant for oysters, a theater producer with a collection of pipes, and a true New York couple walk into a bar.
Wait a minute. Are you trying to set up a tired old joke using descriptors about the original managers and owners of restaurants nominated in this category?
Maybe. Most of them are pretty old institutions. I figure I'd give it a shot.
Save the shots for the after party.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So, since we're all here because of the Guides Association, how about a little culinary history?
What, like the fact that Pearl Street was so named because of the copious amounts of oyster shells along what was then the water's edge?
Are you trying to steal my thunder? Well, since we're on the topic of oysters, did you know that the most famous oyster house of the 1800s was owned by a black man named Thomas Downing?
I did know that. Did you know that he was a well-known abolitionist? Well, sorry. Now I'm also thinking about oysters. I hope there's some at the after party.
All right, let's get on with this so we can get on to more eating and drinking. The nominees for Outstanding Achievement in New York City food are...
For 120 years in Brooklyn, Bamontes.
For over 100 years of great seafood, the Grand Central Oyster Bar.
Changing with the times when it matters, Keen's Chop House.
For its 10th anniversary on Governor's Island, Little Eva's. And the GANYC Apple Award goes to...
The Grand Central Oyster.
Due till 10 o'clock, but
is better company, I guess. So try to make it short and concise. I do want to thank GANYC for thinking of us. I do want to give a shout out to our fellow nominees and to GANYC again for placing us in such great company. Look, it's not a perfect package. Restaurants never really are. It's hard work, starting from the guys in the kitchen, the chef who goes to Fulton Market every single morning, 2 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning, picking the oysters, picking the fish, to the guys on the floor trying to appease everyone, whether they're locals or tourists. It's hard work, even though it doesn't appear so at first glance. We've been around for 107 years. We're trying our best. We promise to keep on trying our best for the next 107 years. Thank you all.
Right, moving right along. We had been planning, actually, ladies and gentlemen, to reveal one final test question to help everybody out.
We were, but just off stage, we were handed a cease and desist letter to stop giving away the questions.
Yeah, maybe we've been giving away a little too much detail.
Yeah. Maybe be a little bit more vague, you know. Generally speaking, let's just say, though, that tour guides should also be familiar with, let's see, the collections of major museums in the city.
Yes, for example, you know, you might want to know which museum you would head to if you wanted to know, get close to some major ancient works.
Tom, I think it's too specific.
Oh. So if you wanted, all I'm trying to say is if you wanted to get it near ancient works from the bosom of Western civilization.
The bosom of Western civilization. The Museum of Sex.
We'll stop there.
We'll stop there.
Yes. Fortunately, many of you already know your museums pretty well, and you probably also know the next fellow. He's no stranger to this stage, no stranger to tour guides, and no stranger to this category. Outstanding achievement in New York City museum exhibitions.
Please welcome the Chief Operating Officer of the Museum of the City of New York, Mr. Jerry Gallagher.
Hi. Coming from the Museum of the City of New York, you might think I'd be a little bit bitter about presenting in this category instead of being nominated for it. And I am. But I guess it's only fair that other museums get a chance. So, seriously though, we have a great respect and admiration for all of the nominations in this category, for all of the exhibitions, and for all of the institutions that presented them. As every tour guide in this room knows, there's more than enough business in the city to spread the love around. And more than that, we feel privileged to be in a city with so many opportunities for us all to learn from and be inspired by. Working in a museum, those of us here who work in museums, we're so lucky to be able to have professions that allow us to dig deep into topics we have great passion for, and then to be able to put them on display for everyone to enjoy and to learn from. As our late and very great friend Lee Gelber once said, it's nice to do what you love and share it with other people. And on that note, I give you this year's nominees for Outstanding Achievement in Museum Exhibitions. For Made in New York City, The Business of Folk Art, the American Folk Art Museum. For Frida Kahlo, Appearances Can Be Deceiving, the Brooklyn Museum. For Play It Loud, Instruments of Rock and Roll, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And for The Moon Represents My Heart, Music, Memory, and Belonging, the Museum of Chinese in America. And the GANYC Apple Award goes to the Brooklyn Museum, Frida Kahlo.
Okay. What an honor it was to display a woman like Frida Kahlo at the Brooklyn Museum. The fact is, the people that waited for hours for a ticket due to the show being sold out for months was incredible. And to the communities and families that brought their families in with pride to see the show, and to the ones that could never afford to go to Mexico City to see that beautiful blue house. It really was for them and their communities that we served. To be the vessel of this amazing artist ahead of her time, and heartfelt, outspoken artist who branded herself before Instagram or any social media channels were ever invented to really show how many followers she really had. She inspires me to this day, and I hope she continues to inspire you. And on behalf of Lisa Small, Catherine Morris, and the Brooklyn Museum, thank you to the Guides Association of New York City.
Wow. We have wound up at the very end here, folks.
Yeah, we're at the end of the program, and I'm actually waiting to see, Tom, if you have any magic tricks up your sleeve this year.
Greg is referring to the fact that last year I may have produced a dove out of thin air. This year I was hoping to go, I planned to go a little bit more old school and actually pull a rabbit out of a hat.
And now begins the pun portion of the show.
Yes.
What happened to the rabbit, Tom?
She was having a bad hair day.
No, seriously, what happened to the rabbit?
He hopped on the wrong train and wound up at Coney Island.
No, Tom, seriously, what happened to the rabbit?
He really did wander into the 5 Points. Now he's a dead rabbit.
Yeah, so, we just had to get those rabbit puns out of the way.
They have a way of multiplying, folks. Okay, well.
Our final presenter is a songwriter and musician whose work includes The Last Session and The Big Voice, God or Merman.
He is also a long-term survivor of AIDS whose pioneering blog, Living in the Bonus Round, has inspired millions. Please put your hands together for Mr. Steve Shacklin.
When I moved back to New York 10 years ago, the first thing I did was I put on a podcast because I wanted to learn more about the city, and the Bowery Boys was my first podcast. I swear that's the truth. You know that guy who just won't go away? He keeps knocking at your door and annoying you, and nothing ever satisfies him. That's the guy you want in your corner when you live in a time of crisis. He's persistent. He doesn't take no for an answer. He doesn't give up. He fights until he wins. And for me, his name is Sean McKenna. Sean has been fighting for the rights and dignity of gay people in New York City since before he was diagnosed with AIDS in 1992, and it would be so easy to simply assume he took an interest in our health and safety once he discovered it applied to him too. But no. In the early 80s, while I was off playing rock and roll, or out on sea playing on cruise ships, he was volunteering, handing out condoms at Pride Parade where people angrily threw them back in his face and spat at him, accusing him of slut-shaming him, of them, because he wanted to keep them safe. But Sean didn't give up. That's not what he does. When we all started watching our friends die, when we started to lose count of the deaths, when the reports started coming in of families abandoning those they had once claimed to love, when they discovered a diagnosis of AIDS, Sean McKenna jumped in and started working for support groups. Body Positive, the AIDS Resource Center. He ran groups for the newly diagnosed, positive at a time when positive meant you were going to die. Every Wednesday he would go to these groups and hoping to make these people feel they had something to live for, no matter how long or short their lives were going to be. In 1992, Sean McKenna became one of the thousands who was told, get your affairs in order. You're not going to live past 35. He suffered not one but 2 bouts of PCP, a pneumonia, barely survived them both. I survived one, and believe me, it was the worst kind of hell, leaving me barely a skeleton. It's a miracle I'm here tonight. Those diagnosed after 1996 had the benefits of the better drugs that Sean and his contemporaries, who got stuck with the trappings of everything they threw at us during the experimental period. He lived that decade as a drug cocktail guinea pig. But he didn't give up. It's not what he does. He said there are things that are unique to long-term survivors that nobody but long-term survivors understand. People diagnosed before today's drugs were released often contend with the psychological and financial toil of having spent much of our youth expecting to die. Many didn't finish school or build careers or save for retirement. And even with modern medications, HIV takes a toll on the body and speeds the aging process. Long-term survivors often experience heart disease, osteoporosis, memory problems, cancer, kidney failure long before it would be expected. People who didn't think they would live to see old age are now experiencing its effects sooner. Sean has spoken up for respect and services for long-term survivors, weathering the storm of activism, focusing on virtually every other issue in the book. He rang the alarm bell for our cause in publications like Pause, World of Wonder, Mike, Medium, Think Progress, and the Huffington Post. He expects and he demands empathy for the people who fought the hardest in the war against AIDS by just being there and allowing ourselves to be the guinea pigs and sticking it out when all the rest of our generation was dying. Well, the Gay Men's Health Crisis was welcoming Larry Kramer back in the spring gala. The tickets were $600 a piece. Sean got pissed. The people Larry helped save couldn't even afford to look at a ticket, let alone buy one. And to go see this happy thing happen. So he bitched about it on Facebook. One of his friends who worked for GMHC, the Gay Men's Health Crisis, told him, and he kept bitching about it because it was an awful way to treat long-term survivors, and eventually they listened. Kelsey Louie invited Sean to a meeting, and Sean's developing idea was to bring back the buddy program. Not to help people die, but to help people live. See, the original buddy program, during the height of the epidemic, would, quote, dispatch people out to those who were dying and whose families had left them and who weren't being fed in hospitals to make it easier for them to pass on. It was discontinued in 2005 due to a federal funding cut and a lack of demand because we were living. Having been told it would cost tens of thousands of dollars to restart this program, Sean held a silent auction himself on Fire Island to raise funds. In its new incarnation, the buddy program now serves the living, reaching out to help long-term survivors to get out of the house, even if it's just to do some light shopping or see a movie or go for a walk. Sean has always understood that the biggest problem is isolation. We're just home alone. And he knew the buddy program would be a smart way to get us out of that isolation. When Perry Halkitis wrote The AIDS Generation, he asked those who he interviewed how they got through it. And while acknowledging there's no single right way, Sean said a lot of it was a sense of humor, and a lot of it was what I see here tonight, the love of other people and the love of this city. Well, these are two traits that Sean has up to his eyeballs. And that's why we celebrate him tonight. The Lifetime Achievement Award is about many things, but before all else, it's about community. And that is what Sean McKenna has done. He builds communities. All these survivors who were homebound, isolated, unable to work, unable to socialize, now have a sense of community after all the years that they fought and were the guinea pigs. Thanks to a small number of activists who simply refuse to leave them behind and who refuse to give up, because that's not what Sean does. This award is called Lifetime Achievement, and when you consider everything Sean has been through, you realize that sometimes having a lifetime is an achievement. Sean has said, I always feel ignored, which is why I'm always bitchy and cranky and bitter. Well, I never see him bitchy, cranky, and bitter. I see life. Well, Sean, you're not ignored tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all stand up for the man who spent his life standing up for us. the 2020 winner of the GANYC Apple Award for Lifetime Achievement, Sean McKenna.
Okay, I didn't expect that. Steve is generally a little lighter about things. But I really, thank you, Steve. I asked Steve to introduce me because I met him in Perry's book, and it was that time that we realized that we weren't alone, and we all thought. I wasn't the only one, but I have to refer to my notes. I was told to have 4 minutes. I've got it timed out. I said, I'm glad you don't have a live band here. And he said, well, we've got pre-programmed music for that. And I said, okay, I'll speed it up then, okay. Thank you. This is my very first shelvable award. I think I got a Garfield Best Brother from my brother when I was little, but this is going somewhere very special, and it means a lot to me. It's my very first award for anything. I'm truly so honored and humbled, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm particularly thrilled by this award because it's coming from a diverse, interesting, fabulous group of New York City lovers and not an AIDS organization. I've been at this for 6 years, and this is the first award I've gotten. It's from complete strangers, and that means a lot to me. That means to me that my message has gone a little farther than I thought it might, and that's something we activists love to hear. My message is so simple. AIDS is not over, not by a long shot. Estimates say that in this year alone, 70% of those living with AIDS and HIV will be over 50 years old. And those of us diagnosed before 1996 and were told we had few years to live have special medical and mental health needs that have yet to be addressed correctly today. AIDS has taken a great deal away from me. It's given me the gifts of compassion, empathy, patience, humor, and the ability to really listen to somebody. To just shut up in your mind and just really listen to somebody's problems. The list goes on, but most importantly, living with AIDS has taught me that our capacity for love is endless, and one of the few resources that we have at our disposal that costs us absolutely nothing. I say practice empathy and practice love. I accept this award on behalf of all those who have died of AIDS, never even knowing what it was. It is they that lift me up every morning to face every day. No matter the aches, pains, fatigue, or stomach issues, I get up because I owe it to them. I accept this award on behalf of all of us living with AIDS diagnosis because there is a big difference between being HIV positive and actually having an AIDS diagnosis. I'd like to blame Larry Kramer for teaching me that angry can get results when it comes from a place of love. I have to thank my mom and dad who are no longer with us, but no doubt proud of me wherever they are. I have to thank my family, friends, and partner Michael for supporting whatever it was that I got myself into and filling my life with love. Lastly, I'd like to dedicate this award to someone who has made every effort to make my life more comfortable. She replaces my shirts when they get crummy. She takes me to places I can't afford to go to. She's at the hospital immediately at whatever cost. She never sends me home without food, underwear, and socks. I have a lot of underwear and socks. She is my buddy program. She inspires me because when she's not helping me, she's digging out some elderly person's car out of the snow, or taking someone to their doctor's appointment, or picking them up for their colonoscopy, or helping my brother in some way by buying him tires, or buying my partner things that she thinks he'll think is cool. She gave me her dog and replaced her dog, Minnie, which then became my dog, when she lived to be 20, and she passed knowing how much a dog brings to my life, so she replaced my dog, Minnie, with a new dog, Poppet, who you saw earlier. There's a big difference between existing with AIDS and living with AIDS, and she, in every way she can, helps me to live. She is my sister. Megan, I love you, and I dedicate this award to you. I love you. And I thank you so much. So much. Thank you.
Congratulations to Sean, and that's our show, ladies and gentlemen.
It is practically Super Tuesday.
A huge thank you to Matthew Baker for producing this evening's show. He does a wonderful job, and thank you to the entire Guides Association of New York City for having us back. It's been an honor to host these awards.
We'll see you next year, or go take a guided tour of New York,
Or
please.
go take that exam.
Or
we
take
want
that
to see
exam.
the rest of you with licenses next year.
All right,
Thank
good
you,
night.
and good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.